and they say the sound has changed their lives.
Cool.
What would you say to people who've never experienced this for themselves?
It sounds like someone set up a vacuum, like in your living room, and the vacuum is just, that thing needs to be cleaned. Like it is, the filter is clogged up, so it's a high pitch whining, and they just left it on and walked out.
You've seen movies and stuff where they have somebody in a cell torture them with sound, and that's basically what it is.
Lindy Valenzuela and Marjorie and Billy Finn are neighbors who all live directly across the street from a data center in Dowagiac, Michigan. The data center is known by residents as Hyperscale Data. It is owned by Alliance Cloud Services, LLC, a company based in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Across the fucking street. By the way, the Democratic Party has failed enormously in making itself the anti-AI data center party, because obviously support for AI data centers is really just support for speculative capital, and the Democratic Party is not anti-speculative capital. But like, the voters don't even consider Democrats any better on AI data centers than they do Republicans. Individual Democrats do well when they campaign against AI data center, but the average voter doesn't think of the Democratic Party as being broadly anti-data center, which is insane because, like, Jesus Christ, look at this. Case in point, Gretchen Whitmer. Yeah, Gretchen, just do it whether or not they complain about it, Whitmer. Gretchen rapist Whitmer, yeah.
They tell me that for the past couple of years, it has been emitting a high-pitched sound 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it wasn't always like this.
The average voter doesn't think. Okay, do you think they're wrong here? Do you think the Democratic Party is, on average, principally politically opposed to AI data centers? Has anything about the National Democratic Party given you that impression? Have statements from the Democratic Party's leaders led you to believe that? Have you seen Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries or Ken Martin represent this position?
Marjorie tells me the house has been in her family for nearly 100 years.
I love this house because it has so much feel of my past. All our friends are here, all our support systems here.
They explained to me that life on their dead-end street, Louise Avenue, was mostly quiet and peaceful.
Dead end? Is that the term the term has multiple implications.
Even though for decades, there had always been an industrial building across the street behind a row of pine trees. They say in 2018, things began to change drastically. The trees came out, a loading dock went in. And around 2021, a cryptocurrency...
It means the street ends. I'm aware that it means the street ends. I just feel like it's not really relevant to the narrative in the news story that it ends at a dead end. But to say dead end while talking about a neighborhood being beset by an AI data center conveys an implication. Like, dead end doesn't just mean the end of the road. It also kind of means, you know, dead end. In the same way that the end of the road doesn't literally only mean when a road ends. It can also mean, you know, when something's over.
Mining operation began. In 2024, they say the noise from the building began around the clock.
How would you characterize life on your street before the data center and after?
It's different as night and day to me. Even if it's cooler out, we can't open our windows like we used to. It's just amazing how much it's changed our life.
In March, Dowagiac city leaders adopted the first ever industrial noise ordinance for the city. It sets a daytime decibel limit of 65 and a nighttime limit of 55. According to the city manager, they fined Hyperscale Data for violating the ordinance. Hyperscale is challenging the city's readings and methodology. For months, Hyperscale Data has been touting plans for expansion, despite city leaders...
Is your legitimate position that you're 100% against data centers? Look, data center is a pretty broad term, the same way that AI is. There are data centers that have existed for decades. When I say anti-data center, what I mean is this new trend of building absolutely enormous LLM data centers with basically no regulation or oversight, just overnight popping up for the purpose of speculation from the big tech companies. I'm not saying I'm against the concept of a data center because they literally need to exist for the internet to function, but this is obviously, these are like incredibly cheap, going up as quickly as possible, doesn't matter where they go, nobody approved of this. They're buying off the fucking city councilors who are who are allowing it to happen. Sometimes they're outright just legitimately illegal to build, and they just fucking do it anyway. Like, huge difference here. Basically, all voters are against this. Like, everyone's against this, especially people adjacent to it. But for some reason, I know the reason, the Democratic Party is not putting any effort into distinguishing itself from Republicans, probably because the National Democratic Party is still, for the most part, servile to capital, and capital is very committed to the AI bubble,
saying they were left in the dark and that no expansion permits had been submitted. Last week, at the invitation of Dowajek's mayor, the CEO of Hyperscale Data, William Horn, spoke directly to city residents at a special council meeting. Horn explained that the company plans to invest $100 million to expand AI computing and advanced robotics at the facility and pivot away from cryptocurrency mining. He also said they would make multiple efforts to reduce sound levels. And for residents on Louise Avenue,
if they still aren't happy and feel that their home isn't enjoyable, then we'll buy their property from them.
Dozens of residents spoke out passionately at the meeting, none in support of hyperscale.
Why didn't you consider the residents when the noise continued to get louder and louder and louder?
The bottom line here is that you are not in neighbors. Your business is sneaky, uncooperative with local ordinances.
I wanted to know more about what the science says when it comes to data center sound, so I reached out to Rick Neitzel, professor of environmental health sciences at the University of Michigan.
When it comes to these data centers being built all around our area and around the country, are you concerned when it comes to sound?
I am. This is kind of an unprecedented new noise source that's being introduced into a lot of communities. We now know pretty definitively that noise in communities at high enough levels is associated with things like high blood pressure, heart attacks, stroke.
Lindy Valenzuela explained to me why she's now a plaintiff in a first-of-its-kind class action lawsuit over allegations of excessive noise from the data center.
The fan noise just exceeds such a level to where we can't even enjoy being outside for more than a few minutes without either of us getting.
Are you sure even moderates like Ohio Senate candidate Sherrod Brown is doing anti-data center ads attacking the GOP candidate? Masaiku, can I ask you something? You contribute a lot to the stream. You contribute positively. You provide a lot of information I'm not familiar with, but you have a narrative, and your narrative very, very often is defending the Democratic Party from criticism. Now, notably, by the way, I think you do so in a very specific way. I think you do so in a very, I would say, like non-ideological way. Like, you don't come here and you're like, well, you can't criticize the Democratic Party. You don't tell me what I can and can't do. What you do is you provide caveats, little nuggets of info, tidbits. But there is a disingenuity there. My point isn't that individual, because I said this specifically, individual Democratic candidates have earned a lot of support being anti-data center. But the National Democratic Party has not adopted being anti-data center as an agenda, as an initiative. And as a consequence, voters do not consider the Democratic Party, by and large, better on the subject. This has been demonstrated in polling. I think that the average voter considers... So the average voter, if we just take like a median and average, it's like 80% of voters are anti-whatever this is with the data centers. Like a huge majority of voters are like, this fucking sucks. We don't want this, you know? But a very, very narrow margin of voters, a narrow majority, thinks the Democratic Party is better on this subject. And my argument is that's because the National Democratic Party has not made it, much in the same way that the Democratic Party LARPed as being pro-immigrant back in 2016 through 2020. But when Biden came in, it was all do not come, do not come. That's kind of my point. Like, individual Democratic candidates are anti-ICE. Is the National Democratic Party anti-ICE? Well, how do you determine whether or not the national party is for or against something? You need leadership to communicate that, right? Is Chuck Schumer pro-abolishing ICE? Is Jeffries pro-abolishing ICE? There is an important distinction between a popular position within candidates of a party and the position of the party. This is something that makes the Republican Party very strong. There is an almost perfect lockstep synchronicity between the interests and positions of the Republican Party and of candidates for the Republican Party. The party and its leaders and its representatives are all basically perfectly in sync in what they advocate for. But the Democratic Party is not, like, at all. The most popular Democratic politician in the country right now, in terms of who drives the most attention, is Zohran Mamdani. The second probably being AOC. But if you took their positions and asked Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries whether they supported them, they would say, like, no, right? Like, Mamdani and AOC say stuff that would make Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries at most hold their hands up in the air and go like, well, we don't know about that. We support the right for every Democrat to blah, blah, blah. But they certainly wouldn't wholeheartedly endorse it. Therefore, the most popular and convincing messaging within the Democratic Party is actually antagonistic to the interests of the leadership of the Democratic Party, right? I don't think that I'm reaching here. I think this is explicit. I think the Democratic Party has a massive disconnect between the popularity of the sentiments within it and the positions of the people who lead it. So to that end, I would say the National Democratic Party has done a wretched job representing itself as the party that believes in these popular positions.
She's currently pregnant and has a 17-month-old boy.
His nursery is on the side of the house that faces the data center.
Oof.
When we're putting him down for bed at night, you can hear the fans coming in through the window. You can hear it in his crib. And that worries me.
Laura Sheets is a partner at Little Sheets and Lindy's attorney in the case.
They don't have the right to cause a substantial interference with your use and enjoyment of your property. This data center is their neighbor, whether they're happy about that or not, but people do have options to help force the company to be a better neighbor.
Everything should have been done to prevent this. It was not necessary to just come in here and not recognize what this would do to our lives.
I reached out to Hyperscale Data and received a statement which reads in part, quote, "We have been part of Dowagiac for 5 years and take the recent concerns raised by residents seriously. As we complete our operational transition away from cryptocurrency mining and toward AI compute infrastructure and advanced robotics, we intend to do our part to help reduce overall sound levels in the area. Roughly half of the mining equipment is already offline, and we expect the rest to be shut down completely within the next 3 months. We remain committed to being a good neighbor and believe the steps we are taking reflect that."
Now, you've done a lot of these data center stories.
Like, I'm sorry, but I feel like this one should really be a slam dunk. Nobody likes this, you know? Not taking a position against this is probably more like I genuinely think running openly as an anti-pedophile candidate would get you less unanimous support than being an anti-data center candidate, as evidenced by the fact that Republican voters tend to dislike data centers but seem to love pedophilia, just judging by who they vote for. It's the very first class action lawsuit on the harm a data center has done. Anti-data center rhetoric is how Hong managed to win the support of two-time rural Trump voters. Yeah, genuine, and we should look at Hong's candidacy, by the way. I'm not saying Hong is going to win over tens of thousands of Trump voters or anything, but I think people are really underestimating the appeal of her messaging and stance on data centers. Hong is super, super, super anti-data center, which is the reason why this is what it's tomorrow, right? The primary is tomorrow. She is getting the support of Republican voters for being like hardline on this, you know? Data center protesters interrupt a Trump event. It's such an unbelievably like ripe, it's such a good, like, it's such an easy position to swoop in on. But a lot of Democrats are staying silent about it because they understand that opposing the data center boom means opposing organized financialized capital.